So I define eco-eating as eating thoughtfully with respect for nature, with respect for animals, and with respect for the environment, and also with respect for your body.
Thinking about your food. That's actually, I think, a pretty revolutionary idea for our culture. Having a consciousness, conscious awareness of where your food comes from, what impact your food has, what impact your choices have.
It certainly would include being mindful of what you're eating, paying attention to where your food comes from, thinking about what went into its production.
I personally believe that there are really ethical questions at stake in the food choices that we make, and I think it's we are obligated to educate our young people about those ethical decisions.
You might think of eco-eating as eating more natural food, food that hasn't been processed.
Our food is our family, our food is our comfort, our food is our nourishment, obviously, but it's also something that grounds us to what we really think. And I think as global warming has become more of a factor in people's thinking, and as we have started to think more about what's on our plate in terms of the obesity crisis, in terms of the environment, people have started to say, maybe I don't want that thing that had to be flown all the 7,000 miles so that I could serve it to my guests. Maybe what I want is the most wonderful thing that I grew in my backyard or that I got at the farmer's market this weekend.
You might think of eco-eating as really being directed at the impact the food has in terms of your carbon footprint.
If you're eating mostly plants, you're eating lower on the food chain. By eating lower on the food chain, you're eating more efficiently. Less land has to be used in order to produce food.
The cost to the planet of raising animals at the rate we now eat meat is enormous. I think that animal production is the second largest contributor to greenhouse gases.
I find it very, very difficult. Every time I go shopping for food, I find it very difficult. Do I choose organic or do I save $1 by not choosing organic? Am I going to buy meat or am I not going to buy meat?
20 years ago, it was so hard to eat plant-based. It was really almost impossible to go to a restaurant and find those entrees. Now, we've got celebrities that are really demanding this food, and business leaders and politicians that are also eating this way and demanding this food. We have football players coming out and saying, I'm a plant-based eater. We've got Michelle Pfeiffer, we've got Demi Moore, we've got Ellen DeGeneres. More and more people are discovering that plant-based eating makes them feel better. It's good for them, it's good for the animals, it's good for the planet.
Also, there have been a number of movies that talk about the production of food and how food is produced and the waste associated with it and the suffering associated with it. And that's gotten people thinking about where their food comes from. We're at a farmer's market here today, and farmers markets have become a big thing and become a big thing again.
People in Los Angeles County, for example, have 130 farmers markets a week. So they have access just about wherever you live to farm fresh food. They can talk to the person who grew it. They can pick up something they've never seen before and say, what is this? What do I do with it? What does it taste like? There are many more products out there. There are cookbooks. There are raw food restaurants. There are organic restaurants. There are locavore restaurants, whatever locavore means to you. School districts have started to address these issues, and LAUSD, for instance, is signing more and more contracts all the time to buy local produce rather than produce that's shipped from elsewhere in the country or the world.
I know at Stanford Dining, we not only perceived it to be an opportunity to educate students, but really an obligation to do so to the extent that we're a part of an academic environment. And so that becomes a very big part of what we do on a day-to-day basis, is educating students about the food system.
We start with plant-based proteins and we make them flavorful. And the way we do that is with marinades and spices and relishes and pomodoro. You don't have to have meat to make this food taste good. So what we do is we charbroil our hamburgers, we charbroil our chicken sandwiches, and you don't know you're not eating meat.
The one thing that we can do every single day, 3 times a day, is to think about the food that we're consuming. And knowing that the single greatest choice that we can make in reducing our impact and supporting this efficient distribution of the Earth's resources for our fellow people is to consume less meat.
For some of us, that means planting a garden in our backyard and trying to eat a lot of our produce from what we can grow ourselves. For some of us, that means shopping more carefully. For other people, it might mean becoming a vegetarian or eating less meat.
Everyone can do some very easy things to eco-fy your diet. Eating vegetables, whether organic or not, is the single biggest thing that you can do. Eating a plant-based diet is really important because it lowers our impact on Earth because of the energetic loss in growing plants to feed animals.
And the most important thing to remember about this plate of food, there was no animals harmed in the making of this sandwich.
We have choices of whether or not to eat meat, whether or not to eat local or not, whether or not to eat organic or not, whether to pressure our government to do certain things. At the same time, we balance these with our other moral obligations. You know, we have children to feed. We have poor people to feed. And we have a growing population. We're going to reach 9 billion in, I believe, about 20 years. How are we going to feed all these people? And how can we come up with some sort of answer that's going to be ethical and also sustainable?